Sydney tucked the blanket snugly around her son. "Mom, I heard whispering last night," Scott said quietly, staring at his closet. "It came from in there." Sydney glanced at the door, then back at him with a soft smile. "It's just your TV, honey, and your anxiety." She leaned down, kissed his cheek, and turned off the light. "Get some sleep." Scott watched her leave, the door clicking softly behind her. The room felt bigger now. Quieter. He grabbed the remote and flipped through channels until he found an action movie. The hero on screen was fearless, shouting and kicking ass. Scott felt a little braver watching him. His shoulders relaxed. Then, a slow creak. Scott's eyes shifted toward the closet. The door had opened just a crack. He sat up slightly, staring. Something moved, a dark shape, low to the ground, dragging itself forward. The TV flickered. On. Off. On. Scott screamed loudly, "Mom!" Footsteps rushed down the hall. Sydney burst in, flipping on the light. Everything was normal. The closet door was barely open. "What's wrong?" she asked, concerned. Scott pointed, his hand shaking. "It was in there." Sydney sighed gently and walked over. She pulled the closet open and turned on the light. "Nothing. Just clothes." "See?" she said softly. "There's nothing there." "Try to get some sleep," she added, then left again. The door closed. Scott grabbed the remote with trembling hands and switched channels. This time, he landed on a comedy. Laughter filled the room. It helped. A little. His body loosened. His eyes grew heavy. Tap. Scott froze. Tap, tap. From under the bed, he swallowed hard. "It's not real," he whispered to himself, turning the TV volume up. The laughter suddenly warped. On the screen, a dark figure stood behind the characters, something that didn't belong. The closet light began to flicker. On. Off. On. Off. Scott pulled the blanket over his head, squeezing his eyes shut. The room went quiet. Then, slow footsteps, approaching the bed. Scott held his breath. He could feel it now. Something standing right beside him. He peeked through the blanket. A shadow loomed inches away. A hand pressed against the fabric, slowly reaching toward him. The blanket was ripped away. Scott screamed. A man stood over him, his face lost in shadow. Rough hands grabbed him, forcing him down, wrapping tape around his wrists. "Mom! Mom!" Sydney rushed in, and froze. Her scream filled the room. The man moved fast, dragging Scott toward the window. Sydney swung at him, trying to pull her son back. The man struck her, sending her crashing to the floor. Scott kicked and